Hi and welcome to a new episode on my channel. Today I'm gonna talk about the final mods I did on my Joysway Rocket 26 race boat. There were still some technical solutions out of the box I didn't like, so I changed a few things on the rudder, on the cooling system and on the drivetrain. The first mod I like to show you happened on the water intake of the cooling system. The target was to have through the whole cooling system the same diameter, or at least 3 mm of diameter, to get the biggest possible amount of water through the cooling system. What I changed is this little plug where you put on your tube. The stock part is the same plastic part as the rudder mount. So this only had a diameter of around 2 mm. What I did is I drilled out the plastic part of the rudder mount and prepared a small brass tube to increase the diameter up to 3 mm. So like this I have a diameter of at least 3 mm all through the whole cooling system. And like this I get a bigger amount of water, so more efficient cooling than you get it from stock solution. The second mod, and also a very important mod in my opinion, is this small steel shaft which keeps the rudder on the rudder mount. The original rod is exactly 3 mm of diameter, and with this diameter you have some play in your rudder mount, so the rudder can move pretty much around. It's not stable at all. And what I did, I took a Dremel tool. Dremel tools often have 3.2 mm shafts, and cut it down to the right size and shaped it that I can put it into the rudder mount. I had to drill out a little bit the rudder part where the shaft goes through the plastic up to 3.1 mm, and then the 3.2 mm plastic shaft fits perfectly through both parts. And as you can see, when I try to move my rudder, it stays perfectly in place, no play at all, and it still moves absolutely free, so no issues at all, and all the play is gone. And for high-speed runs, it's really an improvement if you have no movement on the rudder and your boat runs really straight. For the rudder itself, I also did a little bit an experimental mode. The stock rudder is made of aluminum, which is pretty thick. It's around 3 mm thick, and the target was to make the rudder lighter. The stock rudder is at around 15 to 16 grams, and the custom-made carbon rudder is around 5 grams. And what I also tried to reduce is the drag in water. So in comparison to the 3 mm wide aluminum rudder, the carbon rudder is only 1.5 mm thick. So like this I can reduce the drag in the water and hopefully reach higher speeds with the carbon made rudder, which by the way in my opinion looks so pretty nice with all the carbon structure you can see in the rudder. To build the rudder I only used 1.5 mm carbon plates, some sandpaper, the Dremel and the drill to drill the 5 mm holes to mount the rudder on the rudder system. The final mod on this boat is the coupler between the motor and the flex drive shaft. The reason why I changed it is that the stock coupler causes pretty much vibrations, and vibrations always reduce your power, your efficiency. So what I tried to install a fixed coupler, but when you buy a coupler, these are all 20 millimeters long. And the issue is that I have a pretty big gap between the motor shaft and the flex drive shaft. So if you go with these 20 millimeter couplers, they are just too short to connect the motor and the drive shaft in a proper way. So what I had to do is I ordered this custom-made part, which is 25 millimeters long, so 5 millimeters longer than the stock parts which you can get from Banggood or similar online shops. And with this part, everything fits pretty well. It's made out of aluminum. The downside of these couplers is that you have these little screws which push onto your flex drive, and you have the risk to damage your flex drive. So the original idea was to have the 3 millimeter flex drive, 3 to 4 millimeter brass adapter to protect the flex drive from the screws, and put this adapter into the coupler and tighten up the screws and only push onto the brass part and not directly onto the flex shaft. But the problem is that the flex shaft slips on the brass part, so you can tighten up the screws as hard as you want. The drive shaft always slips on the brass part. So I decided to drill out the brass part at the spot where the screw pushes onto the brass part, so the screws are able to push directly onto the flex drive. And like this, the flex drive is really well mounted, there is no slip at all, and you have a clean coupler which doesn't cause any vibrations. And I hope like this I get the most efficient drivetrain I can get on this boat. So this is all about the last modifications I did on the Joysway Rocket 26. If you missed the previous videos about the first modifications I did, just check out the videos in the links at the end of this video. Thanks for watching, have a good time, happy driving, happy flying, bye bye.